Vote other action on Class F1 liquor license for Jeremy Labonte of St. Andre Bessette Council, number 15829 at 48 St. Paul Street for January 25th, 2020. Mr. Labonte here?
Good evening, thank you for your time.
Just state your name and address, please.
Jeremy Labonte, 109 Farm Street, Blackstone, Massachusetts. So this is for a request for a temporary liquor license for annual beer and dynamite fundraiser. As you might not be aware, St. Paul's is in a weird situation where the state line goes through the front of the school, and that is where the beer and dynamite sells. So we come to Smithfield for the liquor license.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, President, I'll make that motion with a statement. This is every year that Mr. Labonte comes here for a very noble cause, or as representative of the Knights. So it's all been signed off by pretty much everybody that has to sign off on it. So I will make the motion to approve that temporary liquor license.
Motion by Mrs. Lindsay, seconded by Mrs. O'Hara. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Barbarola? Yes. Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Rozier?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Vadney?
Yes. Mr. Clerk, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Next is discussion by council vote other action on victory license for Quick Stop Deli LLC doing business as Quick Stop Deli at 11 Main Street, pending Department of Health approval. How you think?
My name is Amanda Desardi.
This is for a change of
Ownership.
that's
Yes.
correct, right?
And the reason why I'm pending is because we're closing on January 2nd, and that's why I'm pending on the Department of Health.
Mr. President, you will
Mr.
mind? We have all the paperwork that's signed off by the zoning official, fire marshal, tax collector. Make a motion to approve the victualling license, Quick Stop Deli, contingent on the receipt of the health department certification through the town clerk. I'd like to make the motion that be issued at that point, once you remand those paperwork to the town clerk.
Motion by Mrs. Zelinski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Marioli. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mrs. Barbarola? Yes. Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Rozier?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Vadney?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to move up for immediate discussion. Item A under new business, discussion by council board of other action on the environmental assessment relative to the Slatersville water system improvements, Mechanic Street and Old Great Road. Is there a motion to move up?
So moved, Mr. President.
Motion by Mrs.
Second.
Zelinski, seconded by Mrs. O'Hara and Mrs. Marioli. Roll call vote.
Mrs. Barbarola? Yes. Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Rozier?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Vadney?
Yes. First item is a public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved to open the public hearing, Mr. President.
Motion by Mrs. Zelinski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. O'Hara. Roll call vote.
Mrs. Barbarola? Yes. Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Rozier?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Vadney?
Yes. At this time, I'd ask Mr. Jeremiah to come up. His statement, how do you pronounce his name?
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah.
Everybody pronounces it Jeremiah, so I answer to mostly anything. Sure. Thank you for moving it up on the agenda.
Yes, that's it. This is what we have to have a public hearing on. Floor is yours.
They're waiting for the PowerPoint.
Okay. You're not gonna go over every single page of this, are you?
No, not at that.
Because I'll move it back to the end of the agenda.
Move it to the next agenda.
Well, as we set up for this, and basically what this is a public hearing on the environmental aspects of the water, the Slatersville water main extension project. As the council knows that back in 2018, you took action to correct the environmental, the chemical constituents in the private wells that were in the area. So, as a course of action, you passed a bond authorization that allowed for this project to go forward. As part of that process, the state requires an environmental assessment. It's one of those checklists. This is a very, very small project in relation, thank you. In relationship to quite a few of the other more complex projects. But we have to go through all of these checklists in order to make sure that DEM, we restate the obvious in these particular. If you just go to slide, slideshow, there it is. Or the one at the bottom, there it is. We can go to the second slide. I should state also, because of this public hearing, after the council closes the public hearing, the town administrator will receive comments for up to a 10-day period. If those comments are significant, we will address them in the report. If they're not, we'll just progress to submit the document to DEM for their final approval. Once DEM grants the approval on the environmental assessment, the town can then proceed with the bidding and construction phase of this project. The environmental assessment, what we look at is we look at the various alternatives. Obviously, the no action alternative, or what I sometimes call it, the do nothing alternative, it's just status quo. Let everything happen the way it is. The second is on-site treatment. As you know, the residents, there are 10 residents that have been affected by chemicals that have been introduced into their private groundwater wells. The treatment option is much more complex than what you're used to if you have a well on your property that you use to treat, whether it be for pH adjustment or filtration or carbon. This particular is more for chemical removal, and it's much more complex, way beyond what a resident could handle. So that one was ruled out. And finally, the most reasonable and alternative connection was to connect to the existing water system on Mechanic Street. The next slide, please. In the package on the environmental, is draft environmental that I just gave to the council. It's in Appendix D, so all of these slides are in that document. The existing water main, or the Slatersville water project, is the blue line shown on the drawing there. It ends at Highview Avenue and Mechanic Street. The project, what is proposed, is to extend that water main along Mechanic Street for about 2,400 linear feet, and then go north onto Old Great Road to the North Smithfield, Massachusetts line. Those properties in yellow are the ones that have been impacted by the chemicals that are in their private wells. Just the degrees of impact vary from area to area, but those are the ones that the Department of Health and Waste Management have been looking at. They total about 10 of the 40 potential tie-in connections that could occur in this particular property, on this particular project area. Next slide, please. In the environmental, as I said earlier, we have to check all of these boxes, even though we know that many of these intuitively are not impacted by the water main extension project. But again, we have to go through all of these items and give the justification to DEM so that they can authorize the bonding of this particular project. We look at the freshwater wetlands and what the impacts that would have was on this project. We look at the water supply and flooding issues. We look at soils. We look at land use. We also look at the impact it will have on hazardous material during the construction. Will we interfere with rare and endangered vegetation or wildlife? We will look at the historic mapping, archaeological, and cultural. During this process, during the environmental process, we not only look at the records, we also contact the state agencies for their input. We contacted 14 different state agencies. We sent out certified letters explaining the extent of the project, what the project was about, to solicit input from them as to what was, if they had any input. We took a look, we sent information to DEM, the Office of Customer and Technical Assistance, Freshwater Wetlands, Division of Fish and Wildlife, and the Division of Water Resources. We also sent information to the Department of Health for their input. We sent it to the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, both their traffic and bridge control section as well as the maintenance division. We sent to the Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission for their input. The Natural Resource Conservation District, the Narragansett Tribal Historic Officer, we sent him copies, NOAA, and also Coastal Resource Management Council. And you asked me why on that one. We know they're the coast, but again, it's one of those checklists that we have to do. Next slide, please. First on the wetlands issues. Obviously, we're all within the public right-of-way, within the roadway. Under state law, any projects within the roadway, whether it be water, sewer, drainage, does not require a wetlands application. However, as you can see by those blue areas, there are wetlands drainage areas close to the site. Proper maintenance of soil and erosion controls and sediment controls will mitigate any potential sand or soil that would migrate through the wetlands area. So this is an area where this project will have no impact on the freshwater wetlands. Next one, please. In this particular instance, we looked at, as I said in my summary earlier, we looked at the drinking water district, and we also looked at the floodplains. On the left-hand side is the drinking water district that's shaded in the light blue. This project is not within the drinking water district. It will not have an impact on any of those public wells within that district. As far as the floodplain and watershed, the floodplain area is on the lower part of the screen. If you can see it, it's the Branch River. That is the floodplain area, and the watershed area is just above. It's that purple line that's up there. This project is outside of both of those districts, so therefore we will have no impact on those areas rather. Next one, please. The next one we looked at is the soils mapping and the impact the proposed action would have on the soils. Since this project involves trenching, excavation within the roadway, and pavement, again, proper sediment and erosion control will mitigate any problems with soil in this area. Also, as it is an underground pipeline, the soils will not change or mitigate in either direction. Again, no impact. This project will have no impact on the soil in the various areas in the project area. In this particular instance, as I said, we're looking at, and this environmental statement is for much bigger projects, for projects where there are buildings and homes taking over properties. We have to look at what impact this would have on farm and agricultural. EPA, USDA, and all of these federal agencies look at that as very critical to maintain farm and agricultural lands throughout the United States. As you know, we all know that there are no farmlands within this particular project area. It's a residential area. So it has no impact, yet I have to go through the exercise of identifying that there are no farmlands within this area. And it will have no impact on those. The next one, please. The hazardous material and endangered vegetation and wildlife is a little bit more for the underground utilities that we have to look at. We have to make sure that, first of all, that we don't encounter hazardous material. So we know that there's a chemical plume in the area is affecting 10 of the homes. So what we did is we did some research with the DEM and looked at where the chemicals were within the plume. It is at a depth much deeper than what we'll be excavating. So the excavation for water lines is about 5 to 6 feet deep. So the plume, the groundwater plume for the chemicals are much deeper than that. So any groundwater that we encounter during the excavation will not have any of those chemicals associated with it. So we won't need any treatment of any of the dewatering operations. We did borings along the route. There's very little groundwater within that area. We did 5, I believe. 5 borings. Plus we had some borings on a prior sewer project that we did a long time ago now.
Okay.
And we used those as well.
So, Mr. Chairman, not to interrupt
No,
the
that's
presentation. We always get hit with additional funding needed because enough test borings weren't done. We run into ledge. North Smithfield has a lot of ledge and rock. So there were 5 that were bored for this site, and then you have.
And then we had a few extra that overlapped from the sewer projects that we've done in the past for the community on Mechanic Street.
Okay, and as a professional engineer, you believe that's adequate?
That's adequate for.
More than adequate. It's good.
It's good.
Thanks.
Normally what happens is borings, we like to space out the borings anywhere between 300 to 500 feet between borings. It just gives us a trend. I've been on projects where I can take a boring and within 5 feet of the boring that I took, they didn't ledge. I don't have x-ray vision, but we're only going down 5 feet, so the likelihood of encountering heavy borings. There is also some sewer on that road. There's also drainage within that road, and there is a gas line that goes across that is no longer used and abandoned. So there are utilities within the roadway. So we feel fairly confident. We always bump up a little doing the work we've done in the past with the community. We bump up ledge and rock excavation because it is an unknown. With regards to the endangered vegetation and wildlife, we looked at it. Believe it or not, there's the northern long-eared bat that exists in this general area of the state. It is an endangered species. However, as we all know, bats don't live in the roadway. They're on caves and either in wooded trees or hollows of trees. So we're not doing anything with caves or trees. So this project doesn't impact that. But to verify that, we did receive a statement from the Fish and Wildlife Division saying that we would have no impact on any of the endangered, the bat, the long-eared bat in this particular area. So this is a new species that has cropped up in the Rhode Island area, in the New England area. It's one of those that have just been put on that list. Well, we've received clearance from that, so it won't be a problem. Next one, please. The historic mapping and the archaeological and cultural. You can see here that the shaded area down below at the lower part of the screen is the historic district. And the historic district, you can see, is far away from the project area. So we're not going to be impacted. We're not going to change the historic district or any roads or drainage that might be prevalent within that district. As far as cultural and archaeological, again, the Narragansetts, we sent them certified letter. They did not respond to didn't even pick up the letter that was at the mailbox. After a month, it got returned to us. But we did receive a letter from the Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Historic Commission, which they said that there was no archaeological projects, significant projects within this area. These are always unknowns, in the burial grounds or archaeological significance. So we want to make sure that we don't begin a project. This is probably one of the more important ones we do on this environmental. We don't want to begin a project and find out that we have an Indian burial site. Project gets stopped and a lot of costs that are incurred by the community prior to the beginning of the project. So we did clear that from the Rhode Island Preservation and Historic Commission, and we're free to go with this project upon the Department of Health approval. Go to the next slide, please. Finally, the conclusion, there are only temporary impacts to the environment as a result of the water main extension. And all of those can be mitigated during the construction project. Proper control of erosion and sediment during the construction is critical. That we can control the dust and the machinery emissions that are usually generated during projects of this nature by insisting that the contractor maintains a dust-free environment, uses the proper chemicals to control the dust and maintain it on a daily basis. Management of noise and traffic control. As part of our project and any project that we undertake on behalf of the community, during the construction phase, we coordinate with the police, the fire, school districts. It's very important that we communicate with them. Our first meeting is with those individuals to find out traffic control, to find out school bus patterns. The fire department needs to know for rescue if there's activities going on those roads. And we cooperate, and we've developed a traffic control plan that was submitted to the Department of Transportation for the maintenance to ensure that the roads will not be shut off during construction. There will always be an access for the public. The final thing is we do want to maintain a safe environment for the residents in this area. Obviously, construction is annoying